The word hit Maya like a slap. She stood at table 12, water pitcher in hand, smile frozen on her face. The man across from her kept talking. He didn't know she understood every word. Preston Whitmore I leaned toward his girlfriend and grinned. His Japanese was terrible, the grammar of a tourist, the confidence of a man who'd never been corrected. But that word, that specific word, Maya's grandmother had warned her about it decades ago, sitting in her garden in Kyoto. Teaching a 6-year-old girl the weight of language. Some words, her grandmother had said, carry poison inside them. Preston Whitmore had just called her one of those words, right to her face, in a language he assumed she didn't speak. His girlfriend giggled nervously, the other diners ate their appetizers, the world kept spinning, and Maya's hands stayed steady on the pitcher. What she did next would cost this billionaire everything. Before we get into this story, if you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell. I share stories like this every week. Now let me tell you about Maya. 6 hours earlier, Maya had clocked in for her double shift. The Pinnacle Club paid well, $30 an hour plus tips. Members tipped in hundreds, sometimes thousands. Maya needed every cent. She pulled her grandmother's journal from her locker, leather-bound, worn soft by decades of handling. Inside, brushstrokes flowed like watered-down silk. Japanese calligraphy, her grandmother's art, her grandmother's language. Maya traced one character with her fingertip. The word meant perseverance. She'd been persevering for 18 months now. That's how long it had been since her father's funeral, since her mother collapsed in the church parking lot, since the stroke stole her mother's words, her movement, her independence. Maya had been 6 months from finishing her PhD at Stanford. Japanese literature, her dissertation on Heian-era women poets was nearly complete. She had a fellowship waiting, a future mapped out. Then the hospital called. Now she worked double shifts at a restaurant for billionaires. Now she lived in a studio apartment that smelled like mildew. Now her future was a question mark. Her mother's rehabilitation center was the best in Colorado. It was also $14,000 a month. Maya tucked the journal back in her locker. She checked her reflection, uniform pressed, hair pulled back, expression neutral. She became invisible. That was the job, serve the food, clear the plates, don't exist as a person, just a function, a pair of hands that delivered what wealthy people wanted. Tonight, table 12 would want more than she could give. The Pinnacle Club occupied the top floor of Aspen's most exclusive hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the mountains. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light across white tablecloths. The winter air outside was bitter, but inside everything was warm and golden. Maya scanned the room as she returned to the floor. The evening crowd was settling in. An elderly woman sat alone near the window, white hair, reading glasses, a thick book open beside her wine glass. She looked up as Maya passed, something sharp in her gaze. A couple occupied the corner table. The woman wore a power suit, Senate pin on her lapel. Her husband scrolled his phone while she talked. A man sat at the bar, quiet. Notebook open, pen moving steadily across the page. Maya filed these details without thinking. 18 months of service work had trained her to notice everything, anticipate needs, predict problems. Derek appeared at her elbow. The floor manager's smile was stretched too tight. Maya, I need you on table 12 tonight. That's Christina's section. Christina called out sick, and table 12 is, he paused, particular. Particular how? Derek lowered his voice. Preston Whitmore, tech money. Board member here, he's difficult. Difficult. Just survive it, okay? Keep your head down, get through the night. Maya nodded. She'd survived worse than difficult. She'd buried her father and watched her mother forget her name. A rude billionaire was nothing. Preston Whitmore III arrived at 7:15. He didn't enter, he made an entrance. The difference was important. His suit cost more than Maya's annual rent. His watch caught the light with every gesture. His voice carried across the room before he reached the host's stand. The center table, we want the center table. The host hesitated. So that table is occupied, then unoccupy it. Maya watched from across the room. A couple in their 60s sat at the center table. They'd been there for an hour. Their entrees hadn't arrived yet. Derek materialized beside them, whispered apologies, offered a private dining room, comped their meal, anything to clear the space. The couple left. Their faces showed confusion, then embarrassment. They'd done nothing wrong. They simply weren't wealthy enough to matter. Preston claimed his table like a conquering army. His girlfriend trailed behind him, blonde, beautiful, designer everything. But something in her posture suggested she wasn't entirely comfortable. She sat down carefully like someone used to being watched. Maya straightened her shoulders. Time to become invisible. Water, sparkling, cold. Not whatever temperature you people think is acceptable. Preston didn't look at Maya when he spoke. He studied his phone. She existed only as a servant, a function. She poured his water. The temperature was perfect. The specials, he said, still not looking. Maya recited them. Duck confit with cherry reduction, pan-seared halibut with saffron risotto, a winter vegetable tart for those preferring lighter fare. Again, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, say them again. His girlfriend shifted in her seat. Her eyes flicked to Maya, then away. Something like recognition passed across her face, or maybe sympathy. Maya recited the specials again, word for word, same inflection, same professional smile. Preston ordered the halibut. He pronounced it Hall-E, but the appetizers arrived, oysters for him, a salad for her. Maya had just turned to leave when Preston's voice stopped her. This is unacceptable. She turned back. Sir, he pushed the oyster plate toward her. Cold, these are cold. The oysters were properly chilled. Maya had watched the kitchen prepare them. I apologize, I'll have the kitchen. Don't apologize, fix it. He waved his hand, dismissing her. The service class in this country has really declined, don't you think, Tiff? His girlfriend's smile was thin. Maya took the plate. She walked to the kitchen. She counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. The chef looked at the oysters and frowned. These are perfect. I know. I know. She brought back the same oysters, rearranged on a fresh plate. Preston ate them without comment. 3 glasses of wine changed things. Preston had been cruel before. Now he wanted to perform his cruelty. I lived in Tokyo for 3 years, he announced, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Ran the entire Asian division. My Japanese is excellent. His Japanese was not excellent. Maya had known this the moment he butchered the pronunciation of konnichiwa to the host. But she said nothing. She was invisible, she didn't exist. Watch this, Preston grinned at his girlfriend. She won't understand a word. He looked at Maya for the first time all night, really looked at her, then he spoke in Japanese. The first few sentences were simple, ordering more wine, commenting on the service. His grammar was rough but functional, then it got worse. Noroma, he said, stupid, slow. His girlfriend giggled, uncertain, wanting to be in on the joke. Kittenai, he said, dirty. Unclean, the elderly woman by the window looked up from her book. Preston was enjoying himself now, the power of speaking in code, the thrill of cruelty without consequences, and then he said it. The word Maya's grandmother had warned her about, the word that carried poison, a slur so specific, so vicious, that it reached across oceans and decades to wound. Maya's hands did not shake, her expression did not change, but something behind her eyes shifted, something ancient, something patient. Something her grandmother had also given her, the ability to wait for the perfect moment. Preston smirked, waiting for his order. Maya opened her mouth. She had a choice. She could stay invisible, absorb the insult, finish her shift, go home to her empty apartment and her mother's medical bills and her stalled life. Or she could speak. 18 months of silence, 18 months of being no one, 18 months of watching pieces of herself disappear. Her grandmother's journal sat in her locker. Her grandmother's language lived in her bones. Maya took a breath, and what came out of her mouth changed everything. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The words came out in Japanese, but not Preston's Japanese, not the choppy phrases of a businessman who'd spent 3 years ordering drinks and delegating tasks. Her Japanese was something else entirely, classical, formal, the kind of language spoken in imperial courts centuries ago. The kind her grandmother had taught her in gardens filled with cherry blossoms. She began with an observation. Your grammar reveals much about you. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. You learned from subordinates, people who were afraid to correct you. Preston's smirk faltered. Confusion flickered across his face. Maya continued, 3 years in Tokyo, and your vocabulary remains that of a child ordering food. Tiffany's hand flew to her mouth. You called me a word just now. Word that reveals exactly who you are. Maya's eyes never left his. Not a man of culture, not a man of education, just a small person who needs others to feel smaller. The dining room had gone silent. 20 wealthy people stopped eating mid-bite. Maya delivered her final line in perfect Keigo, the highest form of formal Japanese, the language of emperors and scholars. But perhaps I expect too much. Your Japanese sounds like a businessman ordering steak in a tourist restaurant. Forgive my presumption, she bowed, slight, precise, devastating. Preston's face cycled through emotions, confusion, recognition, then rage, pure, humiliated rage. Someone at the next table started clapping, then another. Scattered applause rippled through the room. The elderly woman by the window closed her book. A small smile played at her lips. Where did you learn that? Preston's voice cracked on the question. His face had gone crimson. His hands trembled around his wine glass. Community college course, some language app. Maya met his eyes. My grandmother was Yuki Sato. The name landed like a stone in still water. Perhaps you've heard of her work. Her calligraphy hangs in the Tokyo National Museum. She taught emperors children. She was considered one of the great masters of the 20th century. Preston's jaw worked. No sound came out. Maya continued. She was also my first teacher. I spent every summer with her in Kyoto until I was 16. She died speaking to me in the language you just butchered. Tiffany stared at Maya. Something had shifted in her expression. Recognition. One underestimated woman seeing another clearly for the first time. Derek materialized at the table. His smile was stretched thin with panic. Mr. Whitmore, perhaps a complimentary dessert our chef has prepared. Get her away from my table. Preston's voice shook. Now, get her away from me now. Derek's hand found Maya's elbow, gentle but insistent. Of course, sir, of course. Maya, let's reassign you to. Maya allowed herself to be guided away. She'd said what needed saying. Her grandmother would have been proud. The next hour passed in a strange kind of peace. Maya worked the other tables. The senator and her husband, the quiet man with his notebook, a couple celebrating an anniversary. Staff whispered congratulations as she passed. The busboy gave her a thumbs up behind the kitchen door. Even the sommelier, usually stone-faced, winked. That was incredible, Christina's replacement murmured. I've never seen anyone stand up to him like that. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Maybe tonight wasn't a disaster after all. She caught the elderly woman's eye across the room. The woman raised her wine glass, a slight nod, a gesture of respect. At table 12, Preston sat alone. Tiffany had excused herself to the restroom. He was drinking faster now, his fourth glass, his fifth. Let him stew, Maya thought. Let him sit with his humiliation. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. The rehabilitation center. She stepped into the hallway to check it, just a quick glance. Your mother had a good session today, small improvements in speech recognition. Dr. Reyes is optimistic. Hope, the rarest thing in Maya's world. She read the message twice, 3 times, small improvements, after 18 months of nothing. After 18 months of watching her mother stare through her like a stranger. Maybe things were finally turning around. Preston's voice shattered the peace. My watch. He was standing now, loud enough for every table to hear. My watch is missing. Maya's blood went cold. A Patek Philippe, $200,000, a family heirloom. Preston's eyes swept the room and landed on her. She took it. When she was serving me, she took my watch. The dining room went silent again. But this silence was different. This silence had teeth. I felt her hand near my wrist. When she was pouring the water, Preston pointed at Maya. Search her right now. Phones came out around the room, but this time they weren't pointed at Preston. They were pointed at Maya, recording, waiting, judging. That's absurd. Maya's voice came out steady. She was proud of that. I never touched your watch. Then you won't mind being searched. Preston smiled, the smile of a man who'd found his weapon. Call security, call the police. I want her detained. The elderly woman rose from her chair. Her book lay closed on the table. Tiffany emerged from the restroom. Her hand was in her purse, clutching something. Her face was pale and torn. The quiet man with the notebook was writing furiously, and Derek was walking toward Maya with an expression she'd never seen before. Apologetic, afraid, resolved. Maya, Derek's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sure this is a misunderstanding. Of course it's a misunderstanding. I didn't take anything. I know. Believe you, he wouldn't meet her eyes. But Mr. Whitmore is a board member. His family has donated millions to this club. We need to handle this carefully. Handle this carefully. Maya repeated the words, tasted their bitterness. Just cooperate, empty your pockets, let security search the area. Derek's hands were shaking. Clear this up and everyone can move on. You want me to prove I'm not a thief? I want this to go away. That's not the same thing, Derek, he flinched. But he didn't back down. He could end both our careers with a phone call. He's done it before. Derek lowered his voice further. Please just get through this. I'll make it right later. Maya stared at him. 18 months of double shifts, 18 months of perfect service, perfect attendance, perfect invisibility. This was her reward. She emptied her apron pockets. Pen, order pad, phone, nothing else. See, nothing. Are we done? But Preston was shaking his head. That's not enough. She could have hidden it anywhere. I want a full search. I want the police. 2 security guards appeared at the dining room entrance. Real security, the kind that carried handcuffs. I want her detained until the police arrive. Preston's voice carried across every table. That watch is irreplaceable. It belonged to my grandfather. Maya stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by phones, surrounded by strangers who'd applauded her minutes ago. Now they just watched. Judge and jury in designer clothes. Her mother's care cost $14,000 a month. A theft conviction would end her career, end her future, end everything she'd sacrificed to build. Preston was smiling again, the smile of a man who always won. Detain her. The security guards moved forward. Maya's heart pounded, her vision narrowed. This couldn't be happening, not now, not after everything. One guard reached for her arm, and then a voice cut through the chaos. Clear, calm, commanding. I would advise against touching that young woman. Everyone turned. The elderly woman from the corner table was walking forward, small, white-haired, utterly unintimidating, but something in her voice stopped the guards cold. Preston sneered. Excuse me, this doesn't concern you. The woman smiled. It was not a kind smile. I'm afraid it does, Mr. Whitmore. I'm afraid it very much does. She reached into her purse and pulled out a card, and what she said next changed everything. Security guard's hand was 6 inches from Maya's arm, then a voice cut through everything. I would advise against touching that young woman. Everyone turned. The elderly woman from the corner was walking forward, small, white-haired, moving with the unhurried confidence of someone who had never needed to rush for anyone. Preston's lip curled. Excuse me, this doesn't concern you. I'm afraid it does. She stopped in the center of the dining room. Allow me to introduce myself, Constance Chen. Retired federal judge, 9th Circuit Court of Appeals, former United States ambassador to Japan. The room's energy shifted like a tide reversing. Senator Holloway rose slightly from her chair. Her husband leaned in, whispering something urgent. I've been watching this entire evening, Mr. Whitmore. Judge Chen's voice carried effortlessly. Every word, every action, every cruelty. Preston's confidence flickered. But billionaires don't surrender easily. Judge or not, she stole my watch. That's a fact. No, Mr. Whitmore, it isn't. Judge Chen smiled, the smile of someone holding all the cards, because I watched you remove it yourself. The silence in the room was absolute. At approximately 8:45, Judge Chen continued, you made a performance of checking your watch. You complained it was pinching your wrist. You removed it and placed it in your coat pocket. Left side, interior. Preston's face went white. His hand twitched toward his jacket. You did this while criticizing this young woman's speed. I suspect you forgot about it entirely in your eagerness to humiliate her. That's ridiculous. Preston's voice cracked. I would never. It's in his pocket. A new voice from the kitchen doorway. I watched him put it there too. Chef Kenji Tanaka stepped into the dining room. His whites were immaculate. His expression was calm. I've worked here for 12 years. I know what I saw. He looked at Maya. And I know who this woman is. I studied calligraphy under her grandmother in Kyoto. Yuki Sato was one of the great masters. I've been watching over Maya since she started here. Derek moved toward Preston's coat, draped over a chair. Mr. Whitmore, may I? Don't touch my things. But it was too late. Derek's hand was already in the left pocket. Interior. He pulled out the Patek Philippe, $200,000 of Swiss engineering, exactly where Judge Chen said it would be. The dining room gasped. 20 phones captured the moment. Preston Whitmore III had just publicly accused an innocent woman of theft, with a federal judge and a senator as witnesses. An honest mistake. Preston's voice had changed, smaller now, desperate. I must have forgotten I put it there. The stress of the evening, save it. Tiffany's voice. She was standing 10 feet away from him, as far as the room allowed. I've been recording. She held up her phone. Not just tonight, for months. Every time you've treated someone like this, every slur you've whispered when you thought no one important was listening. Preston's face cycled through emotions, confusion, recognition, fear. Tiffany, darling, let's discuss this privately. We are done discussing things privately. Her voice was steady. The footage is already backed up. 3 different cloud services. My lawyer has copies. She walked toward the door. 8 months I watched you destroy people. Waiters, drivers, assistants. Anyone you thought was beneath you. She paused at the exit. I was beneath you too, I just didn't know it yet. The door closed behind her. Final, a chair scraped. The quiet man with the notebook stood. I hope you don't mind, Mr. Whitmore. He pulled out a press credential. James Wright, documentary filmmaker. I've spent 6 months documenting corporate misconduct for my new film. He smiled, not kindly. You've been extraordinarily helpful. Preston looked around the room. Searching for an ally, finding none, Senator Holloway rose from her table, full height, congressional authority radiating from every inch. Margaret Holloway, senator from Colorado, her voice was ice. I chair the Committee on Workplace Harassment and Discrimination. Mr. Whitmore, I believe we'll be seeing quite a lot of each other in the coming months. 4 witnesses, multiple recordings, a federal judge, a United States senator, a documentary filmmaker. Preston Whitmore's destruction was complete, public, documented, inescapable. Judge Chen stepped closer to Preston, her voice dropped, almost gentle. Filing a false police report is a crime, making false accusations is defamation. Attempting to have an innocent woman detained could be considered false imprisonment. She let that sink in. I'd suggest you leave before this gets any worse. Preston grabbed his coat. The watch tumbled out, clattering against the hardwood floor. He didn't bend to pick it up. No one moved to help him. Derek stared at his shoes. The other diners filmed in silence. The security guards stepped aside. Preston Whitmore III walked out of the Pinnacle Club alone, diminished, destroyed, his $4 billion empire suddenly feeling very small. The door closed behind him, and the dining room erupted. Applause, genuine, sustained, thunderous applause, not for a performance, not for a speech, for Maya. For the woman who had stood her ground when everything was stacked against her. Judge Chen approached as the chaos settled. I knew your grandmother. Her voice was warm now. The courtroom authority gone. 40 years ago, in Kyoto, I was a young lawyer, lost, searching for something I couldn't name. She smiled at the memory. Yuki's calligraphy taught me that strength doesn't require force. That precision is its own kind of power. Her work changed how I understood beauty. She pressed a card into Maya's hand. My foundation supports exceptional scholars caring for family members. I'd like to help you finish your dissertation. A pause, and I could use someone with your composure on my staff. When you're ready. Maya looked at the card, cream-colored, embossed. A future she couldn't have imagined this morning. I don't know what to say. Say you'll call me next week. We'll figure out the rest. Chef Kenji emerged from the kitchen, in his hands a cup of matcha. Steam rising, prepared with ceremony. Yuki-sensei would be proud of you tonight. He bowed slightly. You honored her memory. Maya's phone buzzed in her apron pocket. The rehabilitation center, her heart stopped. Excuse me. She stepped away, opened the message, read it once, read it again. Her hand rose to cover her mouth. Judge Chen noticed immediately. Is everything all right? Maya looked up, tears in her eyes now, finally, after 18 months of holding everything together. My mother. Her voice broke. She spoke today, her first word since the stroke. Chef Kenji set down the matcha. What did she say? Maya's tears fell freely now. No shame, no restraint, just release. She said my name. The silence that followed was different from all the others tonight. This silence was sacred. Judge Chen reached out, took Maya's hand. Then she knows, dear, she knows everything you've done for her. Later, Maya walked out into the Colorado night. The mountains rose black against a sky full of stars. The air was cold and clean and new. She carried her grandmother's journal in one hand, Judge Chen's card in the other, a future she had earned through 18 months of sacrifice, through one night of courage. She had won, not because she spoke perfect Japanese, not because powerful people happened to be watching. She won because she knew who she was when someone tried to tell her she was less. Your education, your knowledge, your dignity, these things live inside you. No one can see them on the surface. That means no one can take them away. The people who need to put others down, they're always the ones who feel smallest inside. Maya looked up at the mountains. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new bills, new uncertainty. But tonight she had everything that mattered. Have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked, what job you had, or where you came from, and then proven them completely wrong? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.